everyone. Welcome to part 4 of the van build series. In this episode, I'm going to be discussing everything that went into building my own roof rack and attaching the solar to said rack. So let's get into it. As a quick aside, anything I use to build this is going to be linked down in the description below. So if you're having trouble finding any resources, check that out. So I knew that I was going to put solar on the van before I even got it. I wasn't sure if I wanted to buy a sort of fit roof rack for the Ram ProMaster or if I wanted to build my own. And after browsing the roof rack market, so to speak, I determined that they just didn't offer enough flexibility for what I needed and thought it would be best to build my own. One of the primary reasons I wanted to build my own was it would allow me the opportunity to expand in the future. If I wanted to add more panels or if I wanted to change to bigger panels. Also, I had to account for the fact that I had a roof fan already installed in my van and a lot of racks would have just sat right on top of that, and that obviously wasn't going to work. So I needed to kind of build around that, which I do still recommend putting that fan in first and then just building a rack around it. In terms of procuring my solar panels, I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, and so what I ended up getting was one of the starter packs from Renogy. It came with 400 watts worth of solar panels. It was 4 100-watt solar panels. It came with the hardware to mount the solar panels. It came with the charge controller to, if you don't know what that is, it kind of regulates the charge coming in from the solar and charges your battery with it. It also came with the cables and adapters to run those solar panels either in parallel or series, which we'll discuss here in a little bit. Knowing what I know now, I feel well equipped enough where I would probably go and look in the used solar panel market and get some bigger panels. I could probably get more power and save some money. But if you don't know what you're doing or you have a very loose grip on it, I am still super happy with the Renogy starter kit. And for what I need, it does just fine. So when I decided to build my own roof rack, one of the biggest challenges was figuring out how I was going to mount it to the roof of the van. I already cut a big hole in the roof of the van to install the fan, and I didn't really want to drill a bunch of little holes into the roof as I felt like it was just going to compromise the integrity of the van too much. So here's what I decided to do. If you have a Ram ProMaster, it already comes installed with these little T-bolts on the roof, and these are there for the purpose of mounting a rack. So I went online and I found these little T-bolt adapter kits that would allow me to put these blocks on top of the T-bolts, and then I could just drill my rack into those.
All right, so you have this piece that slides over the T-bolt, then this sits on top like so. You can see the bolt, maybe the holes through there, not sure, probably not on the camera. Then I would drill the holes in my strut, place the strut on top of here, and then these will go on like so to hold the strut in place.
I knew that I wanted something lightweight but strong for my roof rack. I don't want to put too much weight too high up on the van because it could lead to maybe tipping risks, or just raising the center of gravity for the van isn't generally well advised. So what I ultimately decided on was 1 5/8 aluminum Unistrut. I purchased about 60 feet worth of it, and it was almost the exact amount that I needed. If you guys are having a tough time finding Unistrut and you're in the Southern California area, I got mine from Job Site Supply Company in San Diego. So the Unistrut came in 20-foot pieces. I needed to cut them down to size, so I grabbed my circular saw and started cutting away. For the pieces running lengthwise along the van, I needed approximately 12 feet, and for the pieces running laterally across, I think they came out to 68 inches. Yours could be a little shorter or a little bit longer. I wanted my pieces of strut to hang over the end. If I ever needed to expand outward, it just offered me a little bit more room to do that. So after I cut down the Unistrut into the sizes that I need, I started pre-drilling the holes to connect to the T-bolt adapters that I had on the roof. Once I had the lengthwise pieces attached to the roof of the van, I grabbed my lateral or cross pieces and I mounted my solar panels to those first, and then I put those onto the roof. So with my Renogy starter kit, I had all the hardware provided to attach the panels directly to the roof, but to attach them to my Unistrut, I needed to get spring nuts, I needed to get bolts to fit those spring nuts, and I needed to get washers and lock washers. I used that for every connection that I have on my roof rack, as I really wanted these things locked in there. I've seen videos of people's solar panels blowing off in the wind, and I definitely didn't want that. So I took the little aluminum Z brackets that came from Renogy and I connected those to each of the panels. You have to do 4 on each panel. I then connected those Z brackets to the pieces of Unistrut, and I did them in pairs. So I did 2 solar panels on 2 pieces of Unistrut, and then I did another 2 panels on 2 other pieces of Unistrut. If you have someone to help you throw these up on the roof of your van, that would probably help. I did not, and so I threw these up here alone, but I found a way to do it, and it worked out just fine. Once I had the lateral pieces attached to the solar panels and I threw those on the roof, now I had to mount those to the pieces running lengthwise down the van. I still had spring nuts, I had washers, lock washers, and bolts, but I used a heavier gauge because I was mounting the Unistrut to more Unistrut. I was mounting them with these 3/16 stainless steel Z brackets. I just really wanted to make sure this was super sturdy. I might have gone overkill here, but they're rock solid, and if you splurge a little bit for the 3/16 stainless steel stuff, it's corrosion resistant. I think it's considered medical grade. I think surgeons use it in medical implants and such, so it's really good stuff. So you're just gonna pop those spring nuts in, you're gonna put a washer and a lock washer on the bolt, you're gonna feed it through, and you're gonna tighten these all by hand and really lock them down. So now that you have all your solar panels mounted to the roof, you're gonna have all these wires. So for me, I'm building a 12-volt system, so when it came time to connect my solar panels, I ran them in what's called parallel. And all that means is I'm connecting all the positive wires together and I'm connecting all the negative wires together, which is super easy to do if you have the branch connectors. I think they're called Y branch connectors from Renogy. They come as part of the starter kit. You'll just plug all 4 your positives into one and all 4 your negatives into the other, and then you're gonna come out with 1 positive wire and 1 negative wire. So unfortunately, we had to drill another hole in the roof sooner or later, and this is where it happens. So I grabbed my hole saw and I put the smallest hole that I could. I think it was a 3/4 inch hole, maybe it was an inch. See whatever fits your wires. We're just gonna punch that hole through the roof, and then you're gonna want what's called a cable entry gland. And so this one that I got here is waterproof for the entry portion. However, we still need to seal the bottom where this gland meets the roof. And so just like I did with my fan install, we're gonna line the bottom with butyl tape. We're gonna press that in there, and that's gonna create a solid seal. However, just to make sure it's totally watertight, we're gonna grab our lap sealant that we also used for the fan install, and we're just gonna cover this thing where it meets the van roof with more lap sealant. Once again, I did this many months ago, and I've been through many rainstorms, and I have yet to have a drop of water come through the roof. So I would say that those have done a proper job of sealing this thing watertight. So I'm gonna go really in depth on my electrical build in the electrical video. However, for the sake of this, if you bought the starter kit, it's gonna come with what's called a PWM charge controller. I ultimately upgraded that for an MPPT charge controller, but I'll go more into depth than that later. You're gonna have your wires. It's super straightforward. With the PWM controller, it's gonna have 1 input for your positive wire, 1 input for your negative wire, and then it's gonna have an output where it's gonna run and connect to your battery. It couldn't be easier. That's really gonna be it for installing your roof rack and installing your solar panels. However, that wasn't it for me. I started driving around as I do, and my roof rack was vibrating. Every so often, it would just start this loud vibration, and it was driving me crazy. It sounded like someone was up on the roof with like a little baby jackhammer just bashing away on the roof of the van. So I tried a couple different things to stop the vibrating. First, I replaced all the washers that I used on the roof rack with rubber washers, so it's still metal, and then one side of the washer has rubber on it. That took a lot of time, and after I did it, I didn't really notice too much of a difference. If you're building out your rack right now and you want to splurge for the rubber washers and just see if you can avoid any vibrating, that would be not the worst idea. However, what I ultimately ended up doing was getting bungee cord, and again, it's called a disruptor, I believe. So I just ran lines of bungee cord around the strut here and there. I just ran it around each piece of strut maybe 3 times and then connected it to the other end. And what that bungee does is it absorbs the vibration, and so that metal can never really start getting a strong vibration going. And in return, I haven't had a single loud vibrate. I haven't noticed any vibrating on the roof since, and it was a real problem for about a month. So that is a easy remedy to the problem. You may not have the problem. If you do though, just get yourself some bungee cord, run it around the strut a couple times, and you should be good to go. All right, everybody, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. I totally appreciate the support. Hopefully that helped you out a lot. If I missed anything, I apologize. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comments down below. It would help me out a lot if you would like and subscribe. I totally appreciate it. And once again, everything that I used in this build is linked down below, so check that out, and I'll see you guys next time.
We're gonna tie a knot on either side, and then we're gonna run these across the rack. And what that, I think it's known as an agitator maybe, the idea is that it's going to help absorb vibrations. So hopefully this will put an end to my vibrating roof rack. So what we do for the knot, we're going to run under, then we're going to go in front of the current loop, and then under again, right here, under here. And then we're going to go in between those 2 loops and reach through, hold that, and pull. Bam. And this will give us this little hoop here, which I actually want that to be a little bigger. That'll probably be okay. We'll just make the other side bigger. And then it's got to span across the van. I think this will probably be a pretty good length. Then we don't want those frayed ends, we want to burn them. We got body. There we go. Then we're gonna make one more of those. So again, we run under, and this one will actually make a little bigger, so that's what we're done. Then we're going to run over the circle and under the line, and this will just run right in between those 2 guys, and then we pull the loop through. And this we actually want through there. Voila, a nice loop.